on is technology shit. So.
Same. Yeah. Well, do you have anyone right after this or at some time after?
I have, what was it? I had you down at 4:20 to 5, but there's something at 5:15.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure so I can keep track of time.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, I'll get into it then. I only wrote about 20 minutes worth of questions because Christine was like, you get 20 minutes. And I was like, I'm sure it'll go longer, but whatever. Fine.
Christine!
Yeah.
I was like, 4:20. That's funny. I thought it was you because I was like, why did you have it down at 4:20? Maybe that's when he just does his interviews or something because it's funny. And I'm like, okay, cool. Let's do it. I'll smoke weed.
She was like 4 to 6. And I was like, well, let's just do 4. Like, get it started right away.
So strange. I wonder if that was just a typo on her end then.
Well, I have the pleasure of once again talking to Chad Nicefield, aka Chatty Daddy of Wilson. I guess now also of I always just want to call it Rock the Boat, and I know that's
or Ship Ride.
Yeah, I know that's not what it is, but I was like, oh, it's like something funny, like Rock the Boat or something like that. But
yeah, it's a boat and it rocks. It makes sense.
No, I'm a big Leah fan, so it makes even more sense for me. But we're here to really talk about the posthumous live album, Thank You, Goodnight Live, which will be available January 29th. I didn't see who was releasing it, so I'm assuming this is a self-released live album.
It's funny. It's myself and our management. We made a label, and I'm the administrator, and they're helping me market it. Man, it's fun. It's been fun, like rolling it out in that area and getting in, like not only to like be involved with the creation, the editing, the mixing, the mastering, all of that, but also to like distribute it. Like I'm going behind the scenes and like being like, oh, that's what an ISRC code is and things like that. Yeah, it's fun.
Is the ISRC code, if I know any of my stupid shit right, that's the stuff that directly correlates to like iTunes and your outlets and providers and so forth?
Yeah, it's the number that essentially traces back the royalties. Okay. And then an ISWC is the whole, is the body of work, is the work itself. Like what would be, like Dump Truck has an ISWC code for the actual album release. So that code is the same as the live version. It's just that ISRC is the code that like separates the two different versions. Yeah.
It's always interesting when you start getting into technicalities of things like that. I've joined my co-host podcast, and one of the episodes for a band that we're discussing their discography for is Death. And I've never listened. I'm listening to so much more technical and death metal stuff that I've never fucking listened to, even though it's like 30, 40 years old at this point. And I'm kind of like,
Death? Because there's two of them.
Not the band from Detroit, Death. Like the death metal band from Florida. And it's been kind of weird because it's like, I go on iTunes and it'll have like Scream Bloody Gore, but then it'll be the actual album that came out as it is, and like it's 9 songs, but then they have like a holy shit wow deluxe version with like 50 fucking songs, like the basement demo, the pseudo demo, the pre-pro demo, the live recording, plus the album, and you're like, holy shit, why are there like 3 different iterations of this one fucking record? And like, God, the royalties alone on all that must be a real clusterfuck.
Well, it's funny because like, nobody gives a shit, but like they do, like in what I'm saying, like in that area is like, man, there's like some fucking nerds out there. And I love music, but like I love music, but I love being a nerd about music, I should say. But like the idea of what you're talking about when somebody's like, there's a basement demo and then a motherfucking Todd's House demo, is like, okay, I guess like if you're really into a band, right? I mean, I bought everything that I could, whether it was legal or not, from Nirvana when I was growing up. So I guess like I would go to my fucking local record store and pull out was now I understand as a illegal bootleg of like their live show that this fucking hack in the store just like burnt onto a CD, and my dumbass as well as everybody else would just come in and buy it, and that I see why it makes sense. It's just like, how many of those do you want to buy? Like,
well, if you're a Pearl Jam fan, there's like one.
I guess it never ends.
The tour of From Ever, and their official bootlegs or whatever. But
yeah, Vedder's been fucking reselling the same piece of diarrhea for like fucking 20 years or something. When did that first record come out?
Live came out like what, 91 or 92?
Oh, so like
10,
30
10,
years. 30 years. And like, like you're right, because they'll probably just find another fucking recording from a Tascam from the 80s of Jeremy that is like, this is the original bass line. And then some fucking hack will go spend $300 of his fucking child's college fund on a shitty fucking, and they don't lose his wife will definitely leave him,
Do you know that this was actually like the first verse? You took out 7 words. So this is the original pre-pro version of Alive.
Oh my God. I thought that was really something. Hey, my dad's calling me. Okay. Can I answer this real quick?
Yeah. Dennis.
Hey, Dad. Hey, Dad, can you hear me? I'm live on a podcast, so don't say anything stupid, or say something really stupid, actually.
For balls.
Dirty Dennis, everybody. Hey, can I call you back after this podcast is done?
Oh, I'm always last. God damn it.
Hey, man, if you ain't first, you're last,
Every time I call, you gotta call me back. What the hell's going on?
I can definitely say that.
I guess.
He can't hear you because of the headphones, John. But hey, Dad, I just want to say I love you, and bye.
All right. Love you too. Fuck you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I think you're a shining example that he didn't come in last once, at least.
Oh, boom! I should have said that because
that's what I was trying to get through real quick. So I was like, "Oh, you can at least like between you and your sister, I know that that's definitely a lie at least 1 or 2 times."
I'm calling him back. Sorry.
No, you're good.
That's great. Oh, I almost called my friend, not my dad. Hold on.
That would have been awkward.
This is good. This is good content for the podcast. If you like, can you hear it?
Yeah, I can hear it.
Okay. Oh, he's not going to answer because he's mad. Hey, Dad, I'm still on live, but the guy I'm doing this podcast with right now, his name's John. You might have met him in some point. He knows who you are. But so John just said something so profound to me, and I thought I'd call you back and tell you. He said, you said that you always come in last, and the truth of the matter is that you must have at least came in first one time, because I'm proof of that.
Oh, shit. I told the bitch to swallow.
Goodbye, Dad. All right.
Moving on. Well, fair enough. There is that. Dirty Dennis, everybody.
Yeah.
I feel like, has he been on your podcast at all? I don't think I've heard him on anything.
No, I don't. We have only had like of the non talent stuff things, like my dad's talented plenty, but he hasn't been talented on a ship, I guess, yet. But we have not had like many of the like randos, So maybe I should bring him on there. He complain about why he hasn't been on the ship yet. He likes to do it.
I mean, he seems to be plenty a fan of semen. So
damn, that was fucking ice fucking cold. I love it.
Anyway, we're actually here to talk about the live album, which we started and then got segued into Eddie Vedder milking, the teats of every fucking cash cow he can find. And
you know what milking porn is, by the way?
Oh yeah, milking tables. Haven't you seen the? I had explained it to my wife when Dave. Have you watched Dave?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So when they started doing that, and she's like, "Oh, I got some for you," and I was like, "Oh, it's a milking table." She's like, "What's that?" I was like, "Oh, it's a thing where you put a dick down and just start milking it."
Say, do you watch that, John?
She would probably be absolutely appalled at the shit I watch just out of curiosity alone.
Did she ask you that? Because I did the same thing with Kim. I was like, we were watching it during the lockdown, and we were in Los Angeles together. And I'm like super into Lil Dicky. I always have, and she has been too. But like the show came on, like I finally got her to like watch something with me, like that show, because she never wants to watch usually what I'm into. And she was like, "What is this?" And I said, "It's like I called it, right? I was like, oh, I was going to do a milking table." She's like, "What's that?" And I was like, "It's a thing, like it's
like a glory hole on a table."
Yeah, I tried to explain it to her, and then the scene came up, and I was like, "See, they're doing it." And she's like, "You watch that?" And I was like, I mean, I'm not jerking off to it, like just shut the fuck up. You watch something, like that. So I got super defensive about it. I'm like, yeah, fine, you fucking call me. Anyway.
Well, I don't really know a good porn segue to
every segue is a good porn segue.
Yeah, I mean
say in bed right after whatever you say.
I mean, you know, I'm just trying to milk any segue right now to get back to the conversation. But anyway, so
let's edge right back into it.
Oh, we're edging. All right. So, you know, you guys recorded this record, and initially the live album was meant more for just kind of a keepsake for the five of you. Maybe six if you want to count, you know, the master of ceremonies as well. But how did this go from kind of becoming a personal keepsake to an official live album for the band?
If I'm going to be super vain, it sounded great.
Super veiny?
Yes, another point. Great. We were just edging around. So my friend, who's also a really, really great front of house guy, and he actually just finished at the time that he sent this song over. His name's Josh Sobek, and he used to be a Wilson front of house guy at one point. He used to work for the Crowfoot, where I had been employed before, and he also now he's currently I Prevail's like tour manager front of house guy, and he did their recent he mixed the live record that they just put out, and so he had been already like familiar with like obviously live sound, but you know, now going into that headway, and I was like, man, this is great. And he sent me over the track. I actually forgot that we had Ryan Thomas, who mixed us that night at the Crowfoot, who he's been around forever. He's one of the best live engineers, like in all honest opinion, like that I've ever heard in my life, period. And he's our Crowfoot front of house, like fucking god there, and we always try to get him to come on the road. This is about Ryan. We always try to get him to come on the road with us, but you know, he's booked at the Crowfoot, so the money just never really made sense. So we end up taking somebody that was always really great front of house guys. But Ryan did us a solid and mixed the last shows we had, both in the ballroom and the Pike Room, and he brought in a multi-track recorder because I asked if we could record them. And he recorded both sets, and then I forgot about it. I never asked about it. He never brought it up. We just like moved on. Life happened. A lot of crazy life happened after that. And then one day, I'm literally walking to the corner store I'm here back in Detroit at this point after the pandemic hit in Los Angeles. I was stuck there from like March to June, and I was back here late June, walking down to the corner store, just like jamming some tunes, and Josh sends me a text message, Sobek, and it's just like, check this out, and it says dump truck. It's a file in my little text thread with him. It says dump truck live, and I was like, what? And I hit play, and I'm listening, and I'm like, what is this? I said, what is this? Where'd you get this from? He's like,
Eddie Vedder.
Yeah, he's Eddie Vedder, bro. He loves your shit. He was there. He recorded it. He's like, it's your last show. It's from your last show. I said, how do you have this? He's like, I mixed this. And I'm like, wait, what? Oh shit, we recorded that show. And then he's like, yeah, man, Ryan gave me the stems. And I was like, dude, this is fucking great. So I sent it to Jason. I said, check this out, bro. And he's like, this is awesome. And then we started thinking more about it, because I did have the show literally tracked for this exact reason, but not to put a record out, just so we had like something to listen to as dudes as we moved on to whatever our forward life was going to be. And so then I sent it to our manager, and he's like, dude, this fucking sounds great. I was like, yeah. He's like, do you think we should put a record out? And I said, can we? Because both the sets that we played that night, one of them was Right to we did half of it Right to Rise, half of it Tasty Nasty. Both of those records were released by labels. One a major label, and the other one a pretty large. I would even call them a major label because they ended up going to Concord. So we're like, shit, they're not going to let us release this on our own. And they fucking did. They just I looked at the contract for one of them, and I was like, oh, we're clear. We're good to go. They can't say shit. And the other one, they were super cool about it. And then we moved forward. I came back to Josh after we figured out that we could actually do it. And I was like, hey, man, you have any more of those songs? And he's like, none mixed, but I can send you like bounced MP3s of them, the whole set. And we listened to it, and we found some that we were like, these are terrible. No one should ever hear these. And we found some that were like, these are really great. And I think that like maybe the fans would like, not just the people who were there, but the people who couldn't be there, or just the people who like found Wilson throughout the years that couldn't even make it to a live show. It captured that moment
right,
of what our band stood for and how we presented ourselves perfectly. I thought, when I look back at it all and I think about it, it was an emotional night. It was, specifically speaking, I cried 3 times. And one of those times was on stage at the very end of our set, and the last chorus of the song House of Fuckery from our record Tasty Nasty. And you can hear it. Like, you could hear it in my voice. And only the guys in the band and me knew that happened, where like I couldn't even, like, my voice was giving out because I was crying so hard, And I remember that last note when we played it, House of Fuckery, boom, bam. And on that last hit, I remember just having no more energy inside of me at that moment. Like, it was so sad. When you're so sad that like the world could end and it's going to be okay, you just would rather it. The microphone like fell out of my hand. Like, couldn't even keep my hand open. And this sounds really dramatic, but I remember it only because I was listening to it again. And I could hear it in my voice, and you hear the fucking microphone hit the floor. And it was like, oh man, this is so awful to hear again, like for me. But like, if somebody else doesn't hear it that really cared about what the band stood for and essentially what the House of Fuckery is, I would be doing us a huge disservice to the fans, the people who showed up there and really did spread the word, because Wilson was that band. Wilson was a band that, like, you might have not got it in the industry, you might have not thought we were appropriate for radio or whatever it was. And we found our little spaces. Once we got into your home, I feel like to know us was to love us, type sort of a thing. But when you did, like those fans, like our fans, they fucking did the work for the band, I couldn't think of another way to celebrate that better than to give them what they deserve, which is to hear that moment.
Absolutely. I know there are a lot of people that were bummed that they couldn't make it, with obviously the shows and the whole day selling out very quickly.
We didn't think that was going to happen, by the way. So we're like, should we do another one? And we're like, nah, bro, this is it.
All right, thanks. We'll see you tomorrow night for a night 2. And everyone would be like, what the fuck?
Like, I was literally going, leaving right the next couple of days. I was going to fucking the Philippines. So I was like, I don't even think I can,
Yeah. With this obviously being from the last couple of shows that you, or the last show that you had done, I kind of want to go back. You've kind of already touched on it, to, the night itself and kind of some of the emotions and feelings that you had. But walk me through the process of coming to the realization that this as Wilson is done, and how best to close that chapter for the band.
Do you want me to talk about it when we realized that, like, we were going to be done, or do you want me to talk about it as in that day?
So I guess my question is kind of both. It's a 2-parter, because what's interesting, and for those that maybe don't know how you did your last night, you did essentially 3 sets in one night, kind of a career live curated retrospective, like playing in the smallest room, and you played the sets that you would play back when you played those rooms, the next size room when you were doing basically Rights of Rise, to basically doing the main room at the Crowfoot for what would be Tasty Nasty, and kind of where you were at currently at that iteration of the band. So it's kind of a thing of when you kind of realize you're going to call it a day, and I guess at that point, every band kind of starts going through we're going to, I guess, get the press release ready to go. We're going to probably play one last show as long as everything's still good with everybody. And then, so it's kind of how does that conversation start, where you're like, shit, I guess this is done, right? Yeah, I think this is done. To then, all right, how do we want to go out? How do we come up with the idea? How do you as Wilson come up with the idea? Let's do 3 sets, go in a chronological order of sorts, playing the rooms that we played for these certain eras of the band.
It's funny to really do it, not to bore everybody here, but to really give the perspective, if you're listening and you want to hear it, I think I have to start at the place that was the darkest of our band, which is between our record Right to Rise and Tasty Nasty. and I won't go into a whole spiel here, but in order for me to answer your question, I should say I would need to give a quick comb through. So coming off of Right to Rise, which was like for us our first taste of like what it is to be a modern rock and roll band with radio singles and actually doing it, what you're kind of like you always dreamed of as a kid. Before that, we had a record called Full Blast Fuckery, which was literally us not giving a fuck about anything. Like that version of like, this will never work, because we were all kind of broken from other bands we had been through, at that time when we started the band. Well, when Jason started the band in Lansing, and I had subsequently heard them play only because I booked them at the Crowfoot in the Pike Room on like a new band night on a Sunday night where like local bands would play and they would sell tickets to play. It was like a thing that we just had set up on Sundays for like the idea of, hey, we can cover the room's cost if all bands just move 10 tickets, and then anything that they sell after that is theirs to keep. So we just couldn't do it to open up and lose money, but we could do it to like, hey, here's 5 bands. This is a rock centric bill. You guys can sell 500 tickets. Well, it only holds 250 people, but you can sell 50 tickets and make $400, because they're $10 a pop. Just give us that $100 so we can cover the room fee. And 5 bands do that. That'll take care of what our operating costs.
Right.
So I would get, as a buyer, I would get emails like literally every day from local bands about getting on shows, whatever cool, impressive, like national actors playing in the ballroom they wanted to open. And generally speaking, how we found those bands when we first started to open as the Crowfoot for those like spaces was I would put together a local bill of a specific different genre and then just be there, right? We get to see them play live. We get to see like, are they really going to like put the work in that it takes to like really get there, and then reward the ones who do. Wilson was one of those. And I was like there, I was bartending actually too, because I would bartend those nights. Just to keep the expenses down lower. And Wilson was there, and I was like, fuck, who the fuck is this? And I was like, oh, it's Drew at the time, the bass player. He was the guy who came into my office to pick up the tickets, and I booked the show with. He was in scrubs, like he was like in nursing school. And I didn't think anything of it. To be honest with you, I probably listened to 10 seconds of their song that they sent me or whatever. It was just like, this is heavy. It could go on this Sunday night, right? And then I was there. I was like, what the fuck is this? And I was like, they're great. So following that, I booked them for a couple other shows, I think like an Escape the Fate thing. And they crushed it. And then I was talking to Drew that night, and I said, hey, man, you guys are great, dude. He's like, yeah, we're just breaking up, because the singer at the time, Julian, he was leaving the band. And I was like, I used to be in a screamo band, because I did. I was in a band called With Rescue Breathing, and we toured with like the Used and all that shit back in the day. And I never thought at that point in time I would be going back in that direction, because I was like into like pop and alternative rock much more than I was into anything like that. And I was actually in a band called Manna and Quail at the time, which I played guitar in, which was a very Beatlesque pop band. I was like, fuck, I know how to scream. So I was like, this shit's tight, dude. If you let me like try out or something, I would love to. So I did. I tried out. Moving forward, I got the gig, right? They sat me down at a Taco Bell, Jason and Drew, and they're like, man, we loved you, man. You want to be in the band? And I was like, you know what? This would be really fun. These guys are fun. Playing in a college town, because I went to college, just fucking around, making some rock and roll music would be cool. And it worked for some reason. People cared. That's how I met you, and you booked us in another place. Well, we're not Lansing or not Detroit, where I was living, because they were all in Lansing. And then we got booked in another place, and all of a sudden we were playing like a lot of shows. And then we started opening up for more nationals that I had nothing to do with at the time. And then we're like, well, we should probably fucking make a record. So we made a record. And at first it was supposed to be an EP. And that EP, this is a really long story, I'm sorry, but I'll get through it real quick. The EP turned into a full length through help with exactly yourself, John, because at the time we were recording with my friend Shane Rush, and we were just going to put like 3 or 4 songs out, and put an EP out with 6 songs at a later point. And then you had sent our shit to Steve Evetts, and Evetts hit it back up, and you looped me in with them. And Steve was like, yeah, I love your shit, man. You guys want to do a record? And at first I was like, I think this motherfucker's just fishing for work, just simply because that's how it works, right? Like, why do you want to record our band? And then I looked at a lot of his past shit, and he kind of came in at the early spaces with a lot of these bands, or just as they were like finding their foot, and he made it cooler. And I was like, maybe he sees another story here for us, you know, like And Every Time I Die or Dillinger or all the things he had worked on at the time. And I was like, fuck it, we should do it, guys. And I said, hey man, we have 4 songs that we already have been doing with this guy. We want to make 6, put 6 more on and make it a record. And we did. We went out there and we did 6 songs with him. And then it was time to make a record title, and we couldn't come up with one. And we'd already started at this point kind of touring, but just like regionally, you know, with friends and shit like that. And he finished the record, and one day I had a conversation and I said, let's call it Full Blast Fuckery. Nobody was into that. And then I finally convinced them all to do it, and we did it. And then we put a record out, and that record turned heads. A very distinct type of head, you know, a very distinct type of like music listener. And we had never imagined even having this all happen to begin with. When I was in Taco Bell shoving a fucking burrito down my face, and they're like, you want to be in the band, brother? So then moving on, it was time, like we got found by, you know, who I'm actually Mike Gitter, who was an A&R for many prolific bands back in the day at Roadrunner. Actually, my old band, he had scouted out at one point and went and had meetings with him in New York. I knew him, he knew me. He did not know that I was that guy, though, you know, from the other band that he had talked to years ago. And as we decided to sign the deal with Razor and Tie after being courted by a few different labels, we took the deal and we started making a record. We started writing songs for a record, which we very much thought was going to be Full Blast Fuckery 2.0, essentially, you know. That kind of hit a wall with the label, and the label was like, listen, this is great. It's not going to sell any records. And I was like, so then why did you sign us? You know? And, you know, like, it seems like you want to take a square and put it through a circle. And they're like, yeah, kind of. Essentially the nice way of saying that. And we're like, well, you know what, guys? We never imagined. It's not like we have integrity here at this point in time. We started playing music for free beer while you fuckers were going to college. And then we named a record Full Blast Fuckery. It beat on trash cans and bled on stages, just like, because I was so nervous that I didn't know. I was like, I don't know how to sing now. I'm just yelling and I'm losing my voice halfway through the set, so I'll just break something, you know? And hopefully somebody will be like, that was tight. And that's exactly what happened. So I was like, when we think about the integrity here, and I just knowing Jason as a songwriter, myself as a songwriter, we didn't even think about it. Sorry, is my air conditioning heat start going up? And okay, yeah. I heard it in my ears. So we didn't even think about it any further at that point in time, other than like, let's fucking write songs. Let's write songs. Like, let's think about it. You know, like, deeper than what we were thinking about, because we were thinking about it, but you got to imagine a song called College Gangbang, which has literally nothing to do with college or gangbang inside of the lyrics, was basically the laziest version of being like, I don't know what to call this song, so let's just use the demo title, which is what happened, right? So we decided to go in for it. It's like, hey man, you know, we didn't expect to get here, and here we are, so let's not look a gift horse in the mouth, and let's literally listen to people that know much more about this business than us and see what happens. We put out Right to Rise. That separated our previous existence to what was next in line for us, and we are a whole other version of fans that were to come. And then these guys from the Full Blast Fucker record, they were like, fuck you, motherfuckers. We were like, yeah, fuck us. But like, you know, let's just see what happens, you know. Worst case scenario, you got that Full Blast Fuckery record though, right? And that turned into, when I'm coming up to the darkest spaces ever, we did the whole thing. Everything they wanted. We were a yes band. You're going to go on tour with Guar, and you're going to make $200 a night, and they're going to play 30 shows in a row, and it's going to be 12 hours driving in between each show. And we're like, let's fucking do it. We're going to lose money. Let's fucking do it, you know? So at the end of all of that, some of us had that record cycle. We had a manager that we fired. We had a label who subsequently said, well, we won't take your next, we're not going to take your next option, whether that dude because we fired their boy or just because we literally weren't doing it as well as we were supposed to be doing there. I don't know. However, it was the biggest blessing we could have had, because what had happened from there is we were free agents again. However, we had a broken man in our band, and his name was Jason. Jason quit the band. And he was like, dudes, I have to figure my life out. I have some shit I'm going through, with personal shit, family shit. And we respected that. But I asked him to at that point in time, make me a promise to finish this, because we started writing, right? Yeah. Finish this next journey. And this point, now I'm writing, I'm writing just as much as Jason is, and the guys are and stuff. And we were just demoing, just towing it all. And I got he would always do the demos early because he was the one with Pro Tools in the computer. I ended up getting those tools, so I started writing as well. And then when I knew Jason was going to be out of the band at that point in time, but he was going to finish this record. I was like, well, then I really want to take this I want to use what everybody knows us, the version of what people know us as humans as,
right,
and complement that in our music. A little bit of it all. A little bit of Right to Rise, a little bit of Full Blast Fuckery, and then a little bit of us when we're in your living room, sleeping on your floor, and make the record that, like, essentially that period of time is what I was getting to, is that period of time between Right to Rise and Tasty Nasty, with Jason leaving the band and us letting go of our managers and getting left on the side from the label and not knowing what the future is looking like, and just being really scared but kind of ambitious. Was really dark. It was really dark. Like, who's gonna be Jason? He's like the fucking best guitar player. Like, literally, if you like Wilson or not, Jason as like one of the best guitar, and James, all the guys, incredible musicians. But who's gonna fill this guy? He's the main guy. He started the fucking band. He's the only guy here, and I'm next in line. So I was scared, but I just told everybody else in the band, like, just give him a space, let him do his thing. And we made a record. We got picked up new management that really got what the band was doing at that period of time. It was fans of us in the past, knew we were changing though. They were fans of us from the Full Blast Fuckery record, so they knew all of it. And then when we met Scott Stevens while we were making the record, they suggested that we went to Scott and like did some tracking with him, and we just he got us, pulled the best version. Jason and I, we were just there at first, and then Kyle came a few times, but the other guys in the band hadn't really met Scott yet. But there was a magic that was happening in this room when our three personalities came together. It became what was, we felt free. And when we heard the record back, there was a moment in my mind and in Scott's mind and in our management's mind when they said, I bet you Jason doesn't quit. And I was like, I bet you he doesn't too. I think he's going to hear this record and he's going to be really proud of it, because I think it was his best work, to be honest with you. You can fucking ding-a-ling on a fucking guitar and slay a fucking solo all day long. But when you're really exploring what it is to like create your own sonic craft, that was his best work. I watched him. It was like and I think it was because he didn't give a fuck, because he was going to leave. I don't have to deal with any of this shit. This is fun. It's funny. You know what I'm saying? It's like the idea of what first Full Blast Fuckery was coming back around again. But we made a pact when he did come back that if this doesn't work the way that we would like it to work, we aren't going to do this anymore. Wilson. Right. Just simply because the time has come. We've been in the trailer for 3 records, van and trailer for 3 records now. We went up from making $250 a night to maybe $1,000 a night on tour. And you might be like, wow, you make $1,000. That's not shit, dude. Yeah, no, it's not. Nobody made any money from Wilson, Yeah. So to kind of come back into that, I know that was a long tangent, but when we were in that dark spot, we knew we were going to end if this didn't work. And I thought it was working. Some of us thought it was working. But ultimately, the whole of us, it wasn't working somewhere, whether that was in their chest or like, I cannot suffer this broke shit anymore, or I want to get married. Kyle ended up leaving the band in the summer of 2019. And we had booked what we knew at that period of time, Kyle's last tour, but we told Kyle that he didn't have to do it. We went and did it as a 4-piece. Right before that tour started, though, like 2 weeks, James and Jason came to me. I remember it very vividly. We went to the van outside of the practice space and they said, hey, man, this is it. This is going to be the last tour. If something else awesome comes up between now and what they would call the label, the record cycle, we'll do it, obviously. But like, if this means anything more past, if this goes anywhere, we're out, you know? And I said, well, I'm not going to do this. Pooey and I are just going to do it without you guys, you know?
Right.
It's a big one. So we did everything we needed to do. We were the only people who knew that was going on with the band and we couldn't announce it until pretty much like a month out from that show. And how it got started, because we had a show booked with Coheed and Cambria at the Fillmore here in Detroit. And we couldn't announce this last show until that show played out, just simply by the rules of the contract, the show contract we played. So when that show went away, we were finally able to talk about it. But during that period of time, in the summer to December, knowing what was coming up, and I was super sad about it. Like I said, I was on a different space than the other guys. Like, I'm looking at the social numbers, I'm looking at the streaming numbers, and I might not see the bank account changing much from that, but I can see the growth when people start to hate what you're doing and then start to love what you're doing. And there's that polar opposite happening. That Venn diagram becomes bigger, right? The version of how those two come together is bigger, because one of these are lovers and one of these are haters. And as they widen, so does the middle, which are like fanatics. You know, I think they're the version of like hating and loving something is what drives the other two to be larger, right? So the whole is getting bigger. And I'm just playing this mentally like a science game in my head. Like, this is working. We the next record we're going to put out, I think it's going to fucking crush. We might actually get to go into a situation where like we're not opening a tour, we're direct support, or we're in a van and trailer now, and now we're in a tour bus. Look, we can sleep and not think about dying, you know, every night. But ultimately, the whole didn't, and we need to respect that. So we came together with a plan, and I said, hey guys, and this comes back to the very beginning of what I said after Full Blast Fuckery. Severe disconnect from those periods of our lives. And in order to do what was right to the people who really got us to a space to even be noticed, for what became Right to Rise, the legacy that was Right to Rise, moving to a label and all that, you can't just sprinkle in a few fucking Full Blast Fuckery songs in a Right to Rise set. We did it every night. You know, we know how that awkward that feels. It's like, this song's called Susie J. And then here's a song called Right to Rise or I'm the Fly, you know, opening up for Guar or Newstead or whatever. We're like, yeah. So these people love those songs and these people love those songs. And it was too much for those things to exist together for it to be a clear picture of what Wilson was. So knowing that, we knew that we needed to do something special for the Full Blast Fuckeryers, you know, and for that our version of ourselves and be able to really, really go into that for the last time. So we thought about doing multiple days. One day was Full Blast Fuckery in Lansing, and the other day at Max Bar, you know, as we were talking about doing, because that's where the band kind of really started, you know. The other, and the vice versa for us, the band, it started in the Pike Room, because that's where Wilson had played and I saw them, and subsequently where Wilson would start to play much more often moving on. So we just thought about the geolocations and you know, what kind of like what we should do. And it just kind of was like, shit, guys, you guys just want to do 2 fucking banger sets in a night? And they were like, oh no, that sounds like a nightmare. And we like, but then again, here comes old Wilson. We're like, we'll fucking do it, you know. And that $200 band chasing the Guar tour or whatever came back up. And we're like, yeah, of course we wanted to play 30 songs when we've really never played more than 12 ever in a row in our life. And oh yeah, of course we want to do that in multiple locations with different gear and all the other shit. So when we thought about the space. Sorry, I'm talking a lot, but this is where the space of the Crowfoot comes in. Because the ballroom isn't as separate. What would be the term? Isn't as special of a place for Wilson as the Pike Room is. Right. We played there a lot, but like it wasn't like it didn't define our career or something. Right. However, there's a bigger space, and there's a lot more fans of those other 2 band records than there were of Full Blast Fuckery. At least tangible that we could see. And then we thought about what it looks like. We're like, we're not going to sell this bitch out, so we'll close the balcony out. We're thinking because the bottom holds 800 people and the Crowfoot Pike Room holds 250, and we're like, we'll put all our shit. What are we going to do? How are we going to pay off these bills, right? if this thing doesn't sell any tickets, how are we going to pay up these bills? So we'll put our shit up here and people can buy it if they like. Backdrops, all the shit. What about, who's going to take it? Me? Fuck. I live in a 1-bedroom apartment here, and then I live in a loft in LA. You know, those are where I'm splitting my time. I don't want to carry this shit. So when we went on sale and then the Pike Room sold out, and then pretty much 2 days after the ballroom sold out, we're like, oh shit. Okay, so we got to kind of think about this, guys. Like, how are we going to do this? And that's when we came up with the idea of, instead of selling the shit to keep it, we'll make it a special pre-party that we were going to do anyways in another room, just so we could like hang out with people, because we knew we weren't going to be able to, simply because of the timing of the sets and everything. We just decided, like, instead of taking that money, let's just do an auction and give it all to charity. We chose, Music Cares, and for the mental depravity that musicians can go through, and they don't have any health insurance. So giving some funds away there seemed very appropriate, especially because someone like myself we all went through a lot of shit, you know. And then the rest of it we gave away to a lighthouse, a chapter to help local folks that are hurting financially in Michigan. And then those tickets sold out too. The pre-party tickets sold out, and we're like, okay, well, this is going to be weird. Moving on. Here we did the show. It was we were there for 3 days. The first 2 days, like bringing in all the gear, because we wanted to make sure that we didn't have to take gear from the stage up to the Pike Room. And we wanted to make sure that cleared it. You know, we had a plan, you know, how the flow of traffic was going to work. And then the second day we did our rehearsal, and we built out the deck up top of the Crowfoot Ballroom and the balcony to have the auction items. And then the next day we woke up, came there, and we were there from like fucking 12 p.m. in the afternoon till 5 a.m. that morning. And I was the last person to leave. I had the van full of all the leftover gear shit that wasn't, going with the band guys, because I was going to sell as much as I could to pay, because I had the van, we just bought a brand new van, and that was underneath my name, and I had to sell some of that shit to pay some of that down. Yeah, man. I mean, I don't know if that was just a lot, but it kind of gives you the whole picture, I think, of why it happened, where it happened, and why, and also how we felt. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, absolutely you did. That's why I didn't say anything to ruin your train of thought or anything, like I've been known to. And there were a couple of jokes I wanted to make it throughout there as you were setting them up, but let them be.
Dick stuff, I assume?
Yeah, there's just jokes that have popped up, and I was like, I could say something, but I've done that, and then it ruins the person's train of thought. So I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. So, you're over at this point a year removed from this set. You've obviously lived with it in the mixing and mastering stage of putting out this record. What is the band, and I guess more important, or I guess let me flip the question around. What is this last show, and more importantly, what does the band mean to you now that you've had a full year to kind of decompress from it?
2020, like most of us, I would have to say a good chunk of the folks in the world down and out. If I could be a little bit dark here and say it was the worst year of my life, for many reasons. One of them being, who the fuck am I now? Directly after this show, I went to the Philippines for a month for my friend that was getting married. So I was excited about that. Upon leaving to the Philippines, a volcano exploded as we were in the plane, flying out of the airport to the Philippines from the U.S. And we're like, holy shit, right? We get there, and we were in Manila, and that was the island that they were getting married on. And we were like, fuck, you know, especially Kim, my girlfriend we were at the time, we were like, how's this going to play out? Are we stuck here now? You know, moving from that, this is kind of like encapsulating this idea of what life is. So we were both, but I've been there before. Like I went to Bali, and you know, I know that like we're in the fucking air, that this airplane's going to land. If we couldn't land there, they would redirect us. Right. So because there was damage, we got there, and it was crazy, but the people of the Philippines weren't crazy. This happens to them all the time. It was shitty that their island, that the literal island that they were going to get married on, had the volcano explosion, and now we as friends and everybody are pulling together to work out a plan for their wedding. And it went off. We went to a new location, and it was a great month. We traveled around together as a group, and we came home. When we came home, I did the ship. It was my first year not performing on the ship. Shiprock, the cruise, but as a stowaway, it was me hosting, like literally, like this guy that like it's to still do something that I was doing before because of the virtue that through Wilson. So it's like, this is all good, you know. This is an experience, right? I'm okay with this, and this is in February, by the way. After the ship, I come home, and I just moved into this new place here in Michigan, where my shit was in a storage unit through November and December, and I was living in Airbnbs in hotels, just because I didn't want to go back to Los Angeles, because I needed to be here for all the rehearsals and everything for Wilson and family and shit. So it sucked. I was alone, and so there's a lot of darkness going on, right? And then I had this moment of the end of Wilson. It was like shit, but here's this, like, the world's your oyster, man. You're going to the Philippines, and you're going to get on this cruise ship. And then I come home from February, and I get to move my shit finally into this new place. I started putting my pieces together, and I was going to be here for like a month, and I was going back out in middle of March to LA. And then, you know, my job was at the Crowfoot. I still had, and I moved into new areas there, doing comedy and podcasts instead of live music shit. I was pretty excited about it. And then in February, my ex-girlfriend was murdered. So like 2 weeks, 10 days after I was home from the ship, I found out that she was murdered. And then the following week, our last front of house tour manager, Kelly, who was the last touring guy we had on our last touring staff that we had on the road as Wilson, he died unexpectedly. And I was like, what the fuck's going on? And then I went out to LA for what was going to be just a business trip. It turned into having a wake for my ex-girlfriend, who lived out in Los Angeles. And then when I landed in Los Angeles 2 days later, the world stopped. And I'm alive. I'm in not only as a band guy, I had this plan with a van, by the way, where the van and I would travel around the US from May to November last year, making a record. I was rebuilding out the van to have a recording studio, as well as serving some free popsicles called Nicicles. I was going to all the festivals and giving out my popsicles, and then my friends that were playing, we were going to come into the van, we're going to make a record, I was going to document it, cameras in the fucking van, and we're going to pitch it to Vice, right? We had some good leads. I was like, this is going to be a fucking killer year. That's what I'm saying. So, you know, after Wilson ends, this is all management still on board. Everybody on the team is like, we're going to be there with you, Chad, you know, that sort of shit. And then Finn coming home, like I said, death, come to LA, stuck. World's not happening. Job? Oh, that's not happening either? Because I was going to be able to work. I like always, as in Wilson for 5 to 12 years, 13 years I've been a talent buyer. 12 of them I was in, 11 of them I was in Wilson too. So like I was working and internationally traveling. It's just how my job worked. But that's gone. And I'm just sitting there like, what the fuck is going on? And then obviously what we've all seen that played out, it turned into a really fucking dark place. Like mentally, where I am so scared. I'm scared, you know, like I don't know who I am. I just lost the one thing that defined me, that I didn't really want to end, but I was peace with it. But because I knew that like this other world of excitement was coming, it was even happier that like I could challenge myself in a new way, and that wasn't going to happen. And it really, to be honest with you, dude, like coming back home when I could finally come home, because like I said, I just moved into this apartment too, and I was stuck. Coming back home and then getting that text message from Josh with that song link to Wilson, it brought me right back there. But it was a different feeling. It was like, for the first time, I felt like that darkness it put me in a space that I needed to be in general. And Wilson, though all of the great things that we had done and achieved, and as any band guy will ever tell, person I should say, will ever tell you, like those are some of the fucking most important things that like you strive for, that Wilson got to do. I mean, we got to do some fucking gnarly shit for being like not even that big of a band, you know? And it came with a lot of hurt, and it came with a lot of moments that felt like at the end of it, like, why the fuck did I do all of that? Like, I lost every person I ever was close with. I mean, my best friend, that I made all of those music videos with, and who is one of the biggest supporters. And we cut ties too. You know, that's why I was living out of hotels and in Airbnbs, you know, based upon everything else that was going on. I'm like, why did I do all this? But it was really for something much bigger than me, you know? And that this record and that moment of hearing that song and understanding is like, you didn't do it for yourself, you fucking idiot. You know, this isn't about you. Like, it hasn't been about you this entire time. You're super privileged enough to have these moments happen to you and to not be dead from it. And you're learning now. So listen instead of talk. You know, and it fucking sucked. It sucked to listen to myself for the first time.
I hate to cut it short. I know you got someone coming up in like the next 5 minutes, and I've been on the other side of when someone takes more than their time.
Yeah.
I hate to put a pin in it. I could go down this avenue with you for a little while longer, and I would love to another time if you're willing.
Yeah, of course, man.
When you're done, send me a text, because I want to tell you something that happened to me that's kind of why I'm trying not to cry right now. That happened to me yesterday. And so it's almost very serendipitous, as it always is when you and I get to talk to each other. There's dick and fart jokes. We make wildly inappropriate things we say. But it's one of the reasons that I love you as a very close friend and someone who is always seemingly coming in and out of my life when I fucking need you the most. Whether it's you, whether it's the band, whatever it is. Anytime I've ever needed you, you guys are always there. So it felt very serendipitous when I got this email about this record that I was like, need to have you guys on and kind of bookend at least this chapter of Wilson as it exists now. So with that being said, put a pin on it. We'll pick back up this conversation at some other point in time. And where can people find you or whatever endeavor you would like to plug?
My address is 2920. I love you, John, man. You know, I love you, and I'll help you know that. Not to dishevel this any further, but there's not many people that I can think of in my life that have cared so immensely about something. Not just Wilson. It's not about Wilson, but about music, about art, about the story, about how to propel it. When you see something and when you know what you like very, very clearly. There's one person in the world that I could say like, yeah, who knows what they like? I'm like, that motherfucker knows exactly what he likes, you know? And you get behind it so much, and you do something for people that love what you love, and vice versa, even if they don't love what you love, that I wish the world had more of it in. So you can find me anytime that you'd like to find me, John. As far as everybody who's listening, I'm on the socials at Chad Nicefield and all those regular things. The record is Dump Truck Live is out now. You can listen to it on all the DSPs, Spotify, Apple, all that shit. And the record will have some cool little moments that'll come out along the way. So I hope people paying attention. If you're ever a fan of Wilson, I love you more than you'll probably ever know, because as a shitty kid from Port Huron, Michigan, who only had a dream and played VFW halls and had to rent its own sound system just to have shows when I was 14 and 15 years old, being able to do what my dreams always painted for me is not because of myself, it's because of you. So thanks.
Thank you, and good night.
Thanks. I'll see you.
Oh, that fucking sucked. Shao Kahn, what'd you think?
That was pathetic.
Yeah. Coach, what'd you think?
Fucking embarrassing!
Okay. I mean, I knew it was gonna fucking suck, but I think those guys were a little rude. Austin Powers?
How about new?
Okay, I thought we were going to get the Austin Powers vote. We did not. John, use that for your podcast. It fucking sucks. But you knew what you were getting into. It's your own fault. It will result in less listens. You're going to see a decline in listeners if you start the show with that. You're going to see 30 seconds in, the number will plummet. And I will be there at the bottom of the plummet saying, I fucking told you. Don't use this fucking riff. It sucks. But it's yours.